All right, and we are live. What's going on, everyone? Today is August 15th of 2022. My name is Derek. Welcome back. In this video, it's actually going to be a fun one today. We are going to talk about a couple of major news stories from the past week. We had the death of singer Olivia Newton-John, of course, one of the main actors in Grease. We also had a big FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's residence down in Florida. And we're going to look at how these things happened by the numbers. But before we do, I want to talk to you about something a little bit exciting that happened this past week. On August 11th, Comedy Central, or The Daily Show to be specific, uploaded this segment to their Twitter account where one of their anchors, Jordan Klepper, travels to a Trump rally in Wisconsin, which happens to be my home state, and talks to some Trump supporters about Gematria. And in this video, they, of course, make a mockery of the study and talk to someone who doesn't really know much about it, it seems, and is also using this to support her own political agenda. Now, people who are familiar with my videos know that the language of Gematria leads you to the realization that the left-right paradigm in this country is false. However, not everybody has come to that realization yet. And Jordan here talks to one of these people. And I'm not going to play the segment. It is linked down in the description below. If you want some entertainment today, feel free to scroll through the comments here. A lot of people throwing their opinions in. And it's really interesting to see where people are at. A lot of people just simply laughing, which is, of course, the reaction of a lot of people who are confronted with information that makes them uncomfortable. A lot of people also kind of attacking Comedy Central for seeming... as usual, talking down to people, and that's definitely happening here. Now, some people told me, aren't you angry that your website was made fun of on television? And my answer to that is absolutely not. I actually consider it somewhat flattering that they feel like they need to address this on their show. And if they really wanted to make Gematria look stupid, they could have gone a lot further than they did. Just look back on my own channel. Back on April 1st, for April Fool's Day, I did my own video where I kind of made fun of Gematria. And you realize it's pretty simple to do. But this, to me, looked more like a limited hangout of sorts. And call me crazy, but one of the things I noticed is that when they actually show the app, and we'll talk about this more in a second because it's obviously modeled after my website, but notice how as he types out Trump summing to 88, he mentions meaningful numbers, and 88 is a very meaningful number to Donald Trump. Just this past week, his residence at Mar-a-Lago was raided, and the date they chose to do this was August 8th, the date that's written 8/8 on the calendar. On top of that, August 8th is also the 220th day on the calendar. In the reverse alphabetic order, a cipher in Gematria which simply flips the alphabet backwards so that Z is assigned 1, Y is 2, X is 3, all the way through A is 26, the name Donald John Trump has a value of 220. So again, the 220th day of the year, August 8th, Trump equals 88. So this is a perfect example of how the media scripts the news by the numbers. However, what's really cool about what Comedy Central did here is that this segment featuring Gematria was uploaded by the numbers. And believe it or not, this appears to be a numeric tribute to me. So, yeah, I think you guys will see what I'm talking about once I get to the numbers. You'll probably agree with me. But it's kind of cool, right? You know you're ruffling some feathers when the mainstream media is giving you numeric tributes, which is exactly what I've been telling people this whole time. All you have to do is run the Gematria, check the dates, date durations, and you will undoubtedly find alignments with significant stories. No different here with me and my calculator being on television. So you'll see they didn't actually put the Gematrinator logo there. Now, Comedy Central charges, I'm sure, many thousands of dollars to advertise on their network, which I didn't pay, so they're not going to give me that. But hey, anybody who types in Gematria calculator on the internet is going to come across my website, most likely. and they'll probably recognize my logo as being similar to this. And you'll notice, too, they kind of made a really concerted effort to mimic my calculator. They show the number breakdown down below, but then they also show the colors. And even this breakdown is tweaked a little bit. Like, they really worked hard to make it look like my site. Last week, I was checking out the interview featuring Aaron Rodgers on Aubrey Marcus's podcast, where Rodgers talks about his adventures taking ayahuasca down on a trip to Machu Picchu. And I thought it was relevant for me to comment this, saying, hey, if the mainstream media is working hard to make you look bad, you're doing something very right. And it's ironic I made this comment on August 11th because that's actually the same date that this segment where they were making fun of me was uploaded to Twitter. So let's talk about how this was done by the numbers, potentially as a tribute to me. The first thing about this is that the rally that Jordan Klepper is at, this is a Wisconsin Trump rally. And I, of course, live in Wisconsin, live in a Milwaukee suburb. So this, not necessarily in my neck of the woods, but in my home state, right here. Now, let's think about the date that they did this. August 11th, which is written 8/11. Now, of course, the rest of the world writes this date 11/8. And that did stand out because when my calculator first went live in 2017, it was January 18th, which is another date that you can write 118. But the real riddle is when you write the date out like this, 8/11, as in August 11th. The number 811 is a prime number, divisible only by 1 and itself. And as we see here, it's the 141st prime number. This Gematria calculator app here is clearly mimicry of my website, which is called Gematrinator. And notice how Gematrinator, in the alphabetic order, sums to this same 141. Probably relevant, too, that they show the number 88 on the calculator because 88 is 8 times 11. But that's not all. As I show in every single one of my videos on this channel, Gematria is aligned with dates on the calendar and dates numerology, not just how we write the dates, but also what happens when we add the digits and the dates together. So looking at August 11th, here's what we call the primary numerology, where you add every digit as it's said aloud, 8 plus 11 plus 20 plus 22. This gives us a sum of 61. My real name is Derek Takori, which sums to 61 in the standard reduction method. Don't forget, my last name is Finnish, and in Finnish, my name literally translates to a count of 10. So my name is literally a number. But check out the alphabetic order. Here we're looking at what I call English ordinal, the most simple cipher, which numbers the alphabet 1 through 26. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, all the way through Z as 26. Using this method, my name sums to 142. This happens to be the same number that I share with the word Gematria, which sums to 142 in the reverse alphabetic order. Well, August 11th happens to be the date that leaves 142 days on the Gregorian calendar. There's more you could pull from this as well. The date also had a life lesson number of 25. My first name, Derek, sums to 25. The word numbers sums to 97, which is also the 25th prime number. I even point out how when you multiply all the digits in the date, you get a product of 64. And that stands out because my first YouTube channel was called Gematrinator 64. That's because my birthday is June 4th, or 604. And this was always interesting to me because in Latin Gematria, the word birthday sums to 604, which is my birthday. And, of course, that's the cipher that I consider to be the most important. This Latin or Jewish method on the left side of your screen Notice it's very close to the current 26-letter alphabetic order, but more modern English characters that were not in Latin are placed at the end. This is also called Agrippa's key in Masonic texts. And it is a very significant cipher, particularly to the courts and all those ancient systems that our government currently runs off of. So in that Latin cipher, my name sums to 522. And the host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah, was even 5 months and 22 days after his birthday for this segment. There's a little bit more here. In reverse Sumerian, my full name sums to 2022, which is, of course, the year that we're currently in. And on the date that they aired this segment, uploaded to Twitter, notice how this date fell 68 days after my birthday. Well, when you write out my full name, as it appears on my birth certificate, it sums to the 68th prime number, 337. Furthermore, 68 days is also 9 weeks and 5 days. This is another number that's significant to my name. My full name sums to 95 in reduction. And the date I was born even has numerology of 95. So could this possibly be a coincidence? I say absolutely not. It's pretty clear that this is a little nod to what I'm doing on the side here. And part of the reason I'm not at all upset at Comedy Central for making fun of this, again, they could have gone a lot further and made it look dumber had they really wanted to. But for me to go to family and friends, for instance, and show them, hey, my website was poked fun at on television, that gets their interest a little bit stronger, especially when I tell them that they did it by the numbers. So now I have a real-life example for exactly what I've been talking about all these years. And even though, yeah, it was a backhanded way to mention me, it's given me a little bit more ground to stand on as far as getting people to pay attention to what I'm doing and to see how this is manifesting in the media all the time. So while we're on the topic, let's dive into a couple of the big news stories from this past week. Now, I mentioned the raid on Trump's residence. And obviously, the date August 8th was significant because Trump is 88. Once again, his full name is 220. And August 8th is the 220th day of the year. Notice how Donald John Trump also sums to 68 in reduction. This makes the fact that he has a residence at Mar-a-Lago very intriguing. Mar-a-Lago sums to the same 68 using the alphabetic order. In fact, Donald Trump was born on the date of a total lunar eclipse back in 1946, and this also has a sum of 68. Now, there's another cipher I want to show you called prime numbers, and this method is very simple. It uses the standard 26-letter alphabetic order, but only uses the corresponding prime numbers. So every number here is only divisible by 1 and itself. Using this method, Donald Trump's full name sums to 580, and the number 58 is a very significant number to Donald Trump, who was inaugurated on a date with numerology of 58 back in 2017. The election that he won was the 58th election in the history of the United States. It happened 58 years after the year 58. He was even sworn in by a man who was 58 years old. He announced his candidacy from the 58-story Trump Tower, and so on. It goes on. Remember, the first year he was president, he visited Jerusalem and the Western Wall. And this was a riddle to the temples. Consider how First Temple has this, what am I thinking here? Herod's temple has the 68. I have to go back and remember all the 58s involved. But I want to look again at this 580 with Donald John Trump. Measuring from January 6th, which was the date, of course, of the Capitol riot that is now being blamed on Donald Trump, measuring to the raid of his Mar-a-Lago residence was exactly 580 days. the name that shows up right there in his name, which is already coded with the date. So more news by the numbers. And unfortunately, too many people still can't understand that this stuff is scripted. It was all made up a long time ago. And it's all made to engineer society in a certain direction. I was very annoyed this weekend at how many people I heard talking about conspiracies and how dangerous conspiracies are. And it's got me realizing how powerful this social programming is getting. And what I realize is that they definitely have people primed for some sort of attack from a conspiracy theorist pretty soon. I can't imagine it's going to be more than a few more weeks or a couple months before we get something really big where they're going to go on the news and say, hey, this conspiracy stuff, it's getting out of hand. We can't allow people to read whatever people are saying. We can't trust people to do that. That's where this is headed. And that's why they're associating Gematria with what they label as crazy people, which according to the media are Trump supporters. 20 years ago, people from different political parties used to still get along and hang out and have good conversations, but that doesn't really happen anymore, it seems. At least in my family. People just raising their voices at each other, calling each other names. It's getting pretty ugly out there. I've seen a little bit too much of that firsthand lately. So it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for Gematria. Again, they obviously want to make it look silly, but at the same time, they're still putting truth drops in these segments. For instance, here they talk about the number 113 and how it connects to lies, which is very true. And it's really one of the strongest things in numerology. So they give you a couple of cool things, but then they also give you the ridiculous things. And I actually thought it was pretty funny. He tells this woman to type in, America is in a bad place in the calculator. And of course, she gets a 146. And she says, oh, that's the same as Let's Go Brandon. Right? 146. And she got goosebumps. And it's like, okay. I mean, it's interesting, right? But should that give you goosebumps? I don't know. That's a little much for me. So yeah, either way, ruffling feathers. That's what we're doing here. Getting people to turn their heads towards what we're doing and what we're uncovering about our reality. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the passing of singer Olivia Newton-John, who is really one of the best-selling female artists of all time. Actually, one of the best-selling artists, period, of all time, believe it or not. Olivia Newton-John rose to fame back in the 70s, and in pop culture, she's probably best known for her role in the musical film Grease, which kind of launched the idea of a musical into cinema as a legitimate art form. Her co-star was John Travolta, but one of the main characters in the film Grease was named Rizzo. Rizzo was played by an actress named Stockard Channing. And we're going to talk about how the death of Olivia Newton-John has immense synchronicity with the athlete Rizzo, Anthony Rizzo, who most sports fans these days probably think of when they hear this last name, Rizzo. I also want to give a shout out to Dan Barrett once again. He's been talking about this Sandy Hook riddle, and he connected it to the death of Olivia Newton-John. I haven't had time to watch the video yet. I've been pretty busy lately, but the crux of that riddle is that Olivia Newton-John played a woman named Sandy in the film Grease, and she has the name Newton. And, of course, Newtown is where the Sandy Hook shooting happened. And she died while Alex Jones is in the news for his trial where he has to pay the families of Sandy Hook victims. So there's all sorts of stuff going on with this that leads me to believe there's some trickery in the news behind this story about Olivia Newton-John. Remember, recording artists sell a lot more records and make a lot more money after their death than they did in the many years prior. So why did Olivia Newton-John exit the world stage at the age of 73? Just last month, I did a video on the death of Ivana Trump, Donald Trump's first wife, and she also passed away at the age of 73. And this is a number that a lot of celebrities end up dying at. And the reason for this is that the word sacrifice has an ordinal value of 73. In fact, the phrase ritual sacrifice also sums to 73 in the standard reduction or Pythagorean method. But look again at the gematria of sacrifice. Notice how in our two primary large number methods, Latin and English Standard, we get values of 206 and 226. Well, these two numbers are the same numbers found in the gematria of Olivia Newton-John, 206 and 226. So by virtue of her having these major alignments with the word sacrifice, they had her leave the stage at 73 years old. In the film Grease, she played the girlfriend of a greaser. Notice how greaser sums to 73. And although Olivia Newton-John was born in Britain, she was actually Australian where she was raised. And notice how the word Australian gives us a 73 in the reverse reduction method. A really large part of synchronicity here is that Olivia is said to have passed away on August 8th, which of course was the same date as this big Trump raid. Well, on the same date, August 8th, another actor from the film Grease was in the mainstream media. Actor Eddie Deason had been found not competent to stand trial for a nursing home burglary he committed back in April. Again, August 8th this was published, the same day as Olivia Newton-John's death. Now, in the film Grease, as I mentioned earlier, there's a character named Rizzo, who is the leader of the Pink Ladies. Now, Rizzo is played by an actress named Stockard Channing. We'll review her numerology later on and how it connects to cancer, the disease that claimed Olivia's life. And I want to point out how the name Olivia matches Rizzo in gematria, both summing to 94. And when sports fans think about the name Rizzo, they probably think of this guy, former All-Star and World Series champion Anthony Rizzo. And check out what date Anthony Rizzo was born on. August 8th, the same date we lost Olivia Newton-John. Anthony Rizzo was part of the famous Cubs team that broke the big 108-year curse in 2016. Well, in the year 2016, there was a live-action version of the movie Grease that aired on television. And in that version, the character named Rizzo was played by Vanessa Hudgens, who was born in the year 88. Again, Anthony Rizzo with that 8/8 birthday. So why is this so significant? Well, this year, Anthony Rizzo turned 33 years old on August 8th. And followers of my work and gematria in general understand the number 33 to be of utmost significance to this entire code. This is centered around the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. It's believed by many scholars that Jesus was crucified at the age of 33 in the year 33 AD. Think about how Lord and Savior Jesus Christ has an alphabetic ordinal value of 303. In fact, crucifixion of Jesus Christ sums to 303 as well. Now, in the ancient Hebrew faith, it is believed that their Messiah will step through the Golden Gate in Jerusalem. And here in America, we of course have the Golden Gate Bridge. And the Golden Gate Bridge is associated with the moon. And a big reason for this, thanks YouTube ads, is because of the alignment of the moon when this bridge opened. I'll get to this more in a second, but what I want to point out is how the name Rizzo has gematria of 1139 in Standard Latin. This 1139 is the same value as crucifixion. Crucifixion also 1139. Remember the 1331 crucifixion eclipse code that I have a lot of work on this channel? 1331 sums to 1139. We're in a period between the two twin eclipses here in the United States. Twins also sums to 1139. Well, on the date that Grease actress Olivia Newton-John passed away, the Golden Gate Bridge was exactly 1139 sidereal months old. What's a sidereal month, you may ask? Well, a sidereal month is what we call a lunar orbit, the amount of time it takes for the moon to orbit the Earth relative to the stars in the sky. So this period is about 27 and a half days, a couple days shorter than a synodic month, which is a lunar phase. When the Golden Gate Bridge opened, there was a song called "There's a Silver Moon on the Golden Gate" that was sung. And the reason this song was sang was because there literally was a silver full moon sitting on the Golden Gate. In astrology, the Golden Gate is the galactic center, which sits at about 266 degrees of the ecliptic. So the Golden Gate Bridge has always been a riddle to the moon. And here we are 1139 moons later, and we get this Rizzo crucifixion riddle with Anthony Rizzo turning 33 years old. Also, Olivia Newton-John was 316 days after her birthday when she died, and 316 is the Hebrew Gematria of Jesus Christ. Think about how in English, John 3:16 is the verse of the Bible that is most strongly associated with the return of Jesus. Now, there's another strange 88 connection here with Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo is currently injured, and he hasn't played since, I think, August 3rd. Well, look at how many RBIs he went to the IL with. 880 RBIs for a nice little 88 tribute. And again, this player was on the Cubs team that broke the curse of the Billy Goat. Curse of the Billy Goat sums to 88 in Gematria. The Cubs play at Wrigley Field, which is called the Friendly Confines. Friendly Confines sums to 88. And this is a number that's been huge for the Cubs ever since the curse began. But I want you to look at something else, connecting Anthony Rizzo to Betty Rizzo, who was the character in Grease. Check out how Betty Rizzo was born on August 9th, meaning her birthday is just one day after Anthony Rizzo's. Well, if you include the end date, you find that the character Betty Rizzo was born exactly a span of 48 years to the day before Anthony Rizzo. And that stands out because what number does Anthony Rizzo wear? Well, he wears the number 48. We're told that Olivia Newton-John died of cancer. And I thought it was interesting that when you measure from the first day of cancer this year to the date of her death, you get exactly 48 days. In Gematria, the name Newton-John sums to 48. Remember, her Grease co-star was named John Travolta, who also has that 48. 48 was significant for something else that I was going to talk about. Oh, Eddie Deason, who was arrested for the nursing home burglary that I talked about, he was in the news the same day Olivia died. And that burglary occurred on April 8th, I believe. It says April here. I'm pretty sure I saw April 8th in a different article. Yeah, April 8th, right there. 4-8. Well, earlier I mentioned the two Great American Total Solar Eclipses, and April 8th, or 4-8, is the date of that second eclipse. And think about how the symbol for Cancer is like the number 69. And in the language of Gematria, the word eclipse equals 69. And if you measure from the death of Olivia Newton-John to the next Great American Eclipse on 4-8, you get exactly 609 days. Now, there's another interesting alignment here. Measuring from the first day of Cancer, which is the only symbol on the zodiac ruled by the moon, to the date of her death was also 1 month and 18 days. And not only do you get a 118 here, but if you measure to what would have been her next birthday, you get another 1 month and 18 days. Well, that stands out because the word Cancer equals 118. And I've done a lot of work lately on the number 118 and Cancer. I'll have to find the videos and link them down below for more on that. The word death, the word homicide, also has gematria of 118. Earlier, I mentioned this prime number cipher, which is the alphabetic order with only prime numbers applied. Well, in this method, Olivia Newton-John sums to a prime number. And would you believe it's the 118th prime? On top of that, notice how her name also sums to 152. Of course, in numerology, that 0 is ignored. 152 is the same number that appears in Cancer. Cancer summing to 152 in that same method. The woman who played Rizzo on Grease in the film was born on the 13th of February in the year 44. That date can be written 13/2 and 44. Well, when you write out the word Cancer, it sums to 132 and 44. Also, the name Newton-John sums to 132, just like Cancer in reverse. So there appears to be a bigger riddle with Stockard Channing, just like my name in reverse Sumerian, which we saw earlier. Stockard Channing's birth name also sums to 2022, which is, of course, the year that we're currently in. So it stands to reason that we would have a numeric riddle connected to her in this year. In fact, if you run her age, you find that she had a 666 in her age on that date, which is, of course, what's known as the number of the beast. Number of the beast sums to 258. And look how old John Travolta was when she died. 25,008 days for Travolta there. There were some more alignments with him as well, but I didn't want to dive too deep in that. What I did want to dive a little bit further into is this big 48 connection. And this is going to take us into this next story here, and I'll probably wrap the video up after that. We talked about the number 48 in the death of Olivia Newton-John. Remember, Newton-John equals 48. Anthony Rizzo, who wears number 48, was born exactly a span of 48 years after Betty Rizzo from Greece. And Olivia Newton-John was even born in the year 48, which I forgot to mention. This connects to the next total solar eclipse, April 8th, 4/8, the same date that Grease co-star Eddie Deason was arrested, April 8th. Where was I going with this? Oh, the next story. Duh. On the 4th of August, which internationally is written 4/8, we got a news story from Washington, D.C., where we were told that two people from Wisconsin, which is, again, my home state, they were on vacation in Washington, D.C. for their anniversary. They got struck by lightning across the street from the White House and died. Now, the reason this stands out is because the number 48 was super prevalent. Remember, this was the 4th of August, or 4/8. This cipher here is called English Sumerian, and you'll notice it's the same alphabetic order. However, it's multiplied by 6, which is, of course, a significant number of time. And, of course, the number that makes up the atoms, electrons, neutrons, protons, and carbon. So many things significant about the number 6. Well, in this method, the two victims of the lightning strike, James Miller, notice how his name equals 804, like the date August 4th when they died. His wife was named Donna Miller, which also sums to 804 in that same method. In fact, in the alphabetic order, the name Donna equals 48. The name James also equals 48. And this couple was killed after they were struck by lightning, which equals 84. In Satanic Gematria, the city of Washington has this 48. Now, normally, I wouldn't say that Satanic Gematria is relevant for the name of a city, but this is Washington we're talking about. And Washington is a city with an upside-down pentagram in it. It's very easy to see when you look at the streets. And of course, the debunkers will deny this, but it's pretty obvious to see what they're doing. Forgive me for clicking a poor link here. Here we go. So, yeah, something tells me satanic gematria could be relevant to this whole thing. On top of that, the phrase lightning strike also equals the 48th prime number. And once again, I talk about 666, which sums to 48. 666 has matching gematria with Washington, D.C., which are intriguingly the same digits found in Janesville, Wisconsin, which is the city that this couple was from. Notice the name Jim Miller is an upside-down 666. They were killed by a bolt of thunder. Thunder equals 666 upside down. And look at the names, James Miller and Donna Miller, 656 and 665. Remember, August 4th, which is the date that they died, is also the 216th day of the year. And when you multiply 6 times 6 times 6, you get a product of 216. On top of that, the 216th prime number is 1321, which is the sum of their gematria. So we're getting a little carried away here, but this story was 100% by the numbers, and I don't know if it was real. I assume it could have been. As I commonly say, we live in a matrix of sorts. Things in our lives, significant events particularly, manifest by the numbers that are significant to our names and birth. So just because you see a news story by the numbers doesn't mean it's fake. It doesn't mean the alignments are a coincidence, but there is reality out there is all I'm saying. So just take caution and use your head when you're looking at these stories and don't jump to judgments. That being said, this is pretty interesting, isn't it? Perhaps I should have done a better job. The reason lightning stood out to me in connection with the death of a Grease actress has everything to do with Greased Lightning, which is one of the most recognizable songs from this musical, Grease. Greased Lightning. So it's almost like this story about lightning was greasing us up for the death of one of the actresses. What do you guys think? Let me know. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. Thanks to everybody for jumping in. Whether you're watching live or archived, everyone is free to like, share, and subscribe. The buttons and relevant links will be down in the description below this video. Again, I'm going to try to find a couple more relevant links for the number 118 and how it connects to cancer. There's been some huge, major cancer riddles in the time of cancer recently. So, yeah, more on that below. But how cool was that, right? The Gematrinator on Comedy Central. And I just want to throw it out there. On the thumbnail for this video, I used the old logo for Comedy Central, which they don't use anymore. Reason being because that's the logo that I remember when the network was still funny. Now, I guess just making fun of people on the other side of the party is what passes as humor these days. But shout out to Craig Kilborn and even Jon Stewart, you know, the guys who actually made that show funny. I don't know what they're doing now. But the fact that they need to use my website in order to gain content for their crappy show makes me smile. Makes my heart pretty happy. So yeah, that'll do it for this video. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.